right, everybody, welcome. This is the first episode of the New to Retro Review podcast. This is where I talk about various different things in pop culture, video games, movies, TV, comics, anything of the sort from the past to the present. We're going to be talking about it. I'm your host, One Big Boss, and thank you for coming today to listen to me talk. This is something that I've actually wanted to do for quite a while, honestly. You know, this is something I like to do. I like to talk. For anybody who knows me from the Residents of Evil podcasts and from being on streams at all, you know that I love to talk. I love to listen to people's opinions about what I say. And, you know, for the most part, you know, people have very good insight on certain things out there. You know, like they give good insight, things that I may have missed. And I always love that. And I always love to have really good discussions with people because it's fun, you know, and it's good to talk with people who might disagree with you, but also respect that, you know, they respect what you believe, you know, instead of just the whole, like, you know, internet thing where people rip your head off for having an opinion, or you might slip up and say the wrong thing that's like, you know, clearly you didn't mean to say it, like, you know, you gave the misinformation about something and people never let you forget it. Nah, like, I like the personal one-on-one or anything like that, you know, I just like to be able to talk to people and get insight on things that are out there. So, yeah, what is this podcast going to be more about as well? Well, I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, for me, if you've been on this channel for long enough, you know that I am a huge fan of retro gaming. I love it to death. I grew up in it. It's an era to me that is very special. It's very interesting time to see where games started developing from. Now, the furthest I ever remembered, or as far back as I can remember, I should say, was the NES. The NES days were a time where, you know, you saw a change. Like, video games made a comeback because the Atari, we all know what happened, like the big video game crash and how games almost didn't survive. But the NES and, you know, Nintendo brought everything back. And that was kind of a big deal for a child like me who is very impressionable or something like that, I guess I should say. Or no, like, or has a very overactive imagination. I guess that's what I should say. Because as a kid, I had an imagination that was like running wild all the time. I had ideas for my own video games, for my own series, and I ended up writing a lot of that stuff too. Like, you know, I do write a series that I've been writing for, oh my God, over 20 years now. It was like a series that me and my friends created based off of our love of video games, and we took things from games, and then, you know, like, we saw what it was, and we just like, you know what, let's build on what they have here, you know, because that's what everybody does, you know, nothing's ever really original, something comes from something. I mean, one of the best examples I can give is Ruby. I like that show, and there's a lot of stuff that you see in there from, like, Final Fantasy, and it's just great. Or then you look at games like Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight is a mixture of all kinds of video games that have come before it, like, you know, Castlevania, Metroid, Mario, DuckTales, that kind of thing, but they still make it their own game, and that's what I've done with the series that I've created, and I love it to death. And video games were, like, one of those things that did help me back in the day. So, you know, people always ask me, when did you start retro game collecting? I was like, well, I never really started, like there was never, like, really a point. I always had them, because you gotta remember, too, retro gaming wasn't really a thing as a child. Like, you know, the Nintendo and Super Nintendo and all that stuff, that was just like the beginning of stuff. You know, retro gaming is, you know, like, what is retro gaming now is pretty much anything that was on, like, the PS2 and the original Xbox, and soon the 360 and PS3 will be there, if they're not already. I remember years ago, I think it was if a franchise or something like that, if a generation passes 10 years, it's considered retro now. I don't know if that still holds true, but if it does, then, you know, that's interesting, because then the PS3 would be considered retro now. But either way, you know, I love retro gaming. I love everything it gave us, because without retro gaming, we wouldn't have a lot of the franchises we have today, I feel. I think that, you know, it's such a wonderful era of gamings where, even though, like, people would say, oh, well, they were kind of limited to what they could do back in the day, in many cases, people were right. Some games were limited to the hardware, but other directors and producers and game companies were just like, nah, screw that. We're going to go the distance, and we're going to make this a thing. We're actually going to make this thing work. And, you know, things like, you know, like Chrono Trigger or any of the Final Fantasy games on Super Nintendo, they were amazing. Or then when you played, like, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake on the NES, or, you know, even something like Mario Brothers, or Mario Brothers 3, I should say. It was pretty big back then, you know? Those were games that were huge. And then, you know, Sega came out, and they made greatly well-detailed games. Obviously, their sound wasn't as great as it could have been, but, you know, the graphics at the time were freaking amazing. And that was a good time to be a gamer during that Nintendo Sega era. Like, there was something for, I feel, everybody on both consoles. Even if there was only, like, console exclusives, something wanted you to have those. Like, you had to get those things. And then things really changed in the actual PS1 era. Like when the PlayStation came and the Sega Saturn, it was a whole new world, a whole new ball game, ladies and gentlemen. Like it was a big deal. Like this was like the jump to 3D and polygons. No longer you're using sprites. I mean, like, fighting games use sprites and everything like that. And things like Mega Man X4 would still use sprites, but you get what I'm trying to say. And I just love everything from the PS1 era. I think it might be my favorite era of gaming because of just everything it gave. So it's what drives me to do the things I do, and the game that I'm currently developing, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the podcast. It's the old school ways that make gaming amazing even today. Like, a lot of people love games of today, and I do too. But there's something, and it's not nostalgia, it's just the way games were handled back in the day, where it wasn't so much about making a profit, but it was about delivering to the consumer, because gaming companies back in the day realized, hey, we give the consumer what they want, anything, they're gonna buy our game if we understand what they want. But this day and age, that doesn't happen that often, and it's kind of sad, It is kind of sad like that's the road we've gone down. But moving on, we've talked about the little introduction right there. Next, we're going to be moving on to games I'm currently playing. And, oh man, I have been going down memory lane, but we'll start for some of the newer games. And first one is Dragon Ball FighterZ. This game's been out for quite a while, and I love it. This is the quintessential Dragon Ball game, I think, next to Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. This game is beautiful in every sense of the word. By the time it was coming out, it was supposed to rival Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and it completely buried MVCI, which is a shame because I love MVCI for its combat mechanics. But graphically, this game looked like right out of the anime. People were going insane for this, and the story mode for the game is actually a lot of fun. They give you, it's not like you're just playing through the main story of Dragon Ball, which you've done a billion times in games like Budokai and all these other fighting games they've made. No, like this is a brand new story, and it's awesome. They do really good, They do really good with it. And I personally feel that this game deserves more love. I mean, it does get enough love, and it's still getting more characters. I just love playing it. It's fun. Any of those times that like you're really stressed with life, or it's one of my games that I de-stress from, like just having fun, going online, playing with the characters and trying out new characters. If I lose, I really don't care when I lose in Dragon Ball FighterZ, maybe because like I'm not like super good at it, but I just have fun playing it. And I guess that's the whole point of games too, is like they help you relax. And Dragon Ball FighterZ does do that. And you wouldn't think a fighting game, especially when you're playing people online in stressful situations, would de-stress you, but they do. Next up is Dragon Ball Xenoverse. I have been playing that again, and I kind of want to do a Let's Play for it on my channel. I want to really do that, because Dragon Ball Xenoverse, before Fighters, like Xenoverse 2 and like Xenoverse 1, that's exactly what Dragon Ball fans had wanted for so long. We've all drawn ourselves in video games where, we are these characters, we have powers like Dragon Ball Z characters and stuff. We've all done it. So to be able to actually make yourself into it, it was so fun. The first game I felt was pretty limited, but it was still good. And then Xenoverse 2 comes out and was great. That game was so much fun. And when you play with friends, it's even better. Like, because it's just like a childhood fantasy coming to life. You and a group of friends coming together to play online with one another and beat these bosses and level up together and actually train together to get stronger to beat levels later on in the game. It's just crazy, man. I love that they put so much love and detail into it. And I think this game's been out since 2006 or something. No, not 2006, 2016. And it's still getting DLC, sometimes free DLC. So how can I not come back and play this game from time to time? It's just that good. And again, I want to play it again. I'll try maybe on the PC. Maybe I can get someone to mod myself in it or something like that. I mean, I can pretty much create myself in the create a character, because it's pretty expansive. I like to create a character in this. And I think that a lot of games do need to have, when it comes to create a character, I think they need to be more expansive on what they can do with the characters, because people love that stuff. Like in Soul Calibur, you can do it. Tekken 7 has kind of a customization thing you're able to do. Dragon's Dogma, I think, is one of the best examples of a game where you can really customize the hell out of yourself, like the character that you create and your friend that follows with you. It's kind of nuts. It really is, and it's very expansive. But, Xenoverse 2 does a good job. I really love that game, and I really can't wait playing it for my fans on my Twitch channel, because it's just It's just such a fun game. Next up, I've been playing a lot of Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm a huge Power Ranger fan, but I think I'm going to save that for a future podcast because of how much I do love Power Rangers still to this day, even as a person in their 30s. But the game itself, this was my fighting game of 2019 because I had played other fighting games, and while some were fun, Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, this was a small developed game, okay, folks? This wasn't a game that a lot of people were working on. I mean, like, they had a team, obviously, but it's not like big budget like NetherRealm's Mortal Kombat or Capcom's Street Fighter or even, Namco's Tekken. This is a small team doing it, and it was a team that understood the source material. They even got the voice actors or the actors of the characters to come back to play some of the characters in this game. Like, the original Red Ranger, he came back to voice his character in it. They got Jason David Frank to come to voice Lord Draken and Tommy, and they got Dan Southworth to come back and play Eric, and they threw so much Devil May Cry stuff in here too, because Eric's actor is the voice actor for Virgil in the Devil May Cry games. There's literally times where he's saying like, I'm motivated, and I need more quantum power, and all this crazy stuff he's doing. It just shows you, like, when fans get together to make something, fans do it right in this day and age, because a lot of the times gaming companies forget why they're making games. They're more so making it now for a profit than they are actually the fans. And some companies were doing that for a long time, and then others woke up and realized, hey, we're losing money. Sure, we're getting a lot of money right now, but the overall thing, we're not getting that much money. So we got to change things, and we got to go back to the way things were. And a lot of companies have done that, and I praise those companies for doing just that. And Power Rangers Battle for the Grid is a perfect example of a game selling well with a solid netcode, like a really good netcode to play online, and a game that's just fun and it's something that people want. So I give them all the credit for all the work that they put in to making this game, because it really is an amazing game from start to finish. I mean, the story mode, and it does need some work. There needs to be like a matchmaking property system instead of just going online and then searching for a fight. There needs to be something a bit different than that, but I do overall really like it. Next game, oh man, I've been playing this for the last 2 days. I started going back to the past here, back to 2008, and I'm playing Bleach Dark Souls on the DS. Yeah, no, it's not Dark Souls, it's just called Bleach Dark Souls, and this game is a lot of fun because it's another fighting game, and it was kind of hard to play on the DS because it had like inputs like Street Fighter does to make the things. But on a DS, that stuff's kind of hard to do. But thankfully, for the touchscreen, you're able to actually, do the techniques just by tapping the screen, which made it a lot more fun in many ways. Now, you can play this game up to 4 players with friends, and I never, unfortunately, got to do that because back in the day when I was obsessed with Bleach, none of my other friends really were, or if they were, they weren't a big fan of just, getting the games. But Bleach Dark Souls is great because you get to play as a huge cast of characters in this game. Like, we're talking a lot, but this is also before the, I think at the time, like, the other arc wasn't out yet, the Waco Mundo arc and all that stuff, so there really isn't, like, a huge, like, later cast. It's all, like, the early cast of characters. And you can even play some of the hollows, like a Menos Grande and stuff, or that Grand Fisher guy that, Ichigo's father fights and stuff. At least I think you can play as him. But yeah, I'm going back and playing it, and it's just so much fun, and the characters have their own strengths and weaknesses, and it plays interestingly, too, because you get something like Sajin Komamura. He's the dog guy, the captain with the dog face, and he's this big tank-like character, so of course he's going to be slow, but hits like a tank, and that's really cool. Tatsuki, Orihime's friend from high school, she's a karate champion and everything, or, she studies karate and she's a badass, but she's also a human, so her attacks don't do that much damage to the, like, Soul Reapers and, the heavy-hitting characters like Aizen or Ichigo. So things like that were really interesting on how they had to balance this out. It's not like Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi 3 where, you just get characters together and it doesn't matter, like, you get Super Buu versus one of Frieza's men, and it can be an even match and stuff. This game really makes it different. Plus, like, there's a card system, too, to restrict line jumping and restrict your speed or boost your character speed or recover your life, that kind of thing, or your attack. Things like that were really amazing with this game, and I actually played this first. I didn't play the first one. I think it was called The Blade of Fate on the DS. But I saw this in store and had to get it. And it's a shame because we only got 5 games. Like, during Bleach's heyday, we only got 5 games that came to America. There was, I believe, a total of 23 games that Bleach made, and only 5 made it to America. Now, I did get Bleach Heat the Soul 6 and 7 on the PSP. I imported them because I saw how fun they looked, and they were great. But, I've been playing a lot of Bleach Dark Souls, and it's great. It's a fun game. If you can find the game, which I'm sure is very cheap, and you still got a DS or a 3DS, playing with your friends, especially those who still like Bleach, guys, give this a shot because it's a lot of fun. There's no online, though. You have to be in the same room to do it because, this was an era where Nintendo still wanted people to play together in a room, and I can respect that, but not a lot of games did go online. But playing a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! On the Switch. This will probably be like another podcast for another time, but I really do love Yu-Gi-Oh! And I always have. I never really dropped out of it completely, but the newer rules and the newer stuff that comes out is a bit ridiculous, but the Switch version is great because I can play with my friends around the world, and me and my best friend have been cracking hardcore on it, trying to get the best decks that we can to go online and fight people. And it's a great game. If you don't have a Switch, it is coming to the PS4 and I believe the Xbox One. I'm not sure about PC, but it is coming to those very soon. I believe it's called, Yu-Gi-Oh! Dual Links or something like that. I know that's the phone one. I just can't remember what this one's called, but it's great. It's on the Switch. I actually got it. I got a Japanese account to get this game first because I wasn't going to wait, the 3 to 4 months to actually play this game. You can play the Japanese and English one like together. It's fine. So I did buy the English version though, because it came with a physical copy and 3 cards. Now, I think this is some of the worst cards that they've ever come with because I remember when Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually gave you really awesome cards back in the day. But overall, I was still happy because I got a physical copy of the game. And being a retro gamer and collector, I like my physical media. Playing a lot of stuff on the PS3 too. Like I kind of went a little back to the PS3 era because I set up my dual PS3s and my PS4, my Xbox and Switch and all that jazz. And man, I gotta tell you, there's a lot of good games that got downloaded on the PS3 back then. I'm not gonna go into like every single one of them, but they were really amazing to see all this kind of stuff. It was really something to go back and see all the games I downloaded during my lifetime with the PS3, and it's great. I mean, I was playing things like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, because you can't get those 2 games anymore digitally, and you can't even get them physically on the newer consoles because digital only, and we all know how bad digital only has its bad drawbacks. I was playing games. What are the ones I was playing? I was like playing Super Turbo Puzzle Fighter HD or whichever one that's called. That's always a great one. Bejeweled 2 is on there, and I was playing a lot of that because Bejeweled 2 is another one of those games where you pop in and you play. It's very relaxing because of the music. It's not really stressful at all. Like I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. But yeah, there's just tons. I was playing. What was some of the other ones I was playing? Like Mahjong. I have that on there, and I actually popped in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 on the PS3, and I didn't find any matches online. I figured not a lot of people were still playing that, but I do hear that Operation Raccoon City is still being played heavily on the PS3, so I might check that out someday, actually, to see, where that, how that's still going. But yeah, that's pretty much all the games I'm really playing these days. I've been so busy that I haven't gotten to play a lot. But yeah, those are the games I'm playing. I'd like to play some more. Maybe on Twitch soon I will once I start restructuring everything because I was at PAX West 2 weeks ago, and PAX South, and I'm still not recovered from that, like, schedule-wise, which I'll actually go into more about later in this podcast. But next is some news. So first off, we're going to talk about the news about a Silent Hill soft reboot. Now, people have been reporting on this, and I don't know, guys. I don't think Konami's interested in doing that. Last time Konami put something out, it was that Contra game, and, well, look how bad that game was. That looked like a canceled late PS2, early PS3 title, and it bombed big time. Like, Konami just didn't care. And it's proof that they don't care. Like, and this is the sad thing, right? Konami has been a company that, outside their gaming division, when it's their social media and stuff, they're great to their fans. Like, fans of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I had done a Castlevania shoot in Boston for some friends of mine. We all planned this shoot, and Konami actually liked and retweeted it and, like, said that we did a great job. And that was kind of amazing to get that recognition, like, they really loved that. And apparently, like, the Konami offices that, like, aren't like the gaming ones are good. I mean, it's not saying the gaming ones are, it's just the people running it. Because there's developers that just want to make games, and they're probably too afraid to leave, or maybe it's because Konami's bad and they might blacklist them or something, because we all heard about the bad stuff about Konami for the longest time. But I don't know, guys, about Silent Hill coming back, or if it will be good. The games really hadn't been the same since Team Silent left, and I did really enjoy games like Downpour and Homecoming. I know they weren't the quintessential I almost said Resident Evil Silent Hill games, but they were still good. And I think they do need to make just sit down and be like, man, we screwed up. We had Hideo Kojima and we could have done so much, and now look what he's doing now. He's doing good. There's companies that want him. Now his company's going to start making movies, apparently. We screwed up. We got to do something. And I think this is their time to get back on track. But it's really hard because out of all the gaming companies out there, this seems to be literally the worst one when it comes to what they did to their employees for so many years. So it doesn't make me think that Silent Hill can come back in any way, shape, or form that's not some kind of mobile game. And I don't know how you got to microtransaction the hell out of something like Silent Hill, but I'm sure they'd find a way. But hey, if they do it and it looks good, I'll play it, I'll support it, as long as they do things the right way. That's all I ask. So let's get to the really big news that's dropped recently, and that is Resident Evil 8 news, like the leaks that came out recently. And from Biohazard Declassified, they were talking about exactly what was going on. And this is the stuff that's reported in the leaks. Now remember, guys, this is just leaks. Nothing has been confirmed. Just leaks. You gotta remember that, ladies and gentlemen. Don't jump down people's throats or tear into people for having different opinions or thoughts about this, because this is what leaks do. So, right off the bat, Ethan is returning. Bad move, Capcom. If this is legit, I am not happy. Ethan was a terrible character. He had no emotion. The dude gets his arm cut off and doesn't even seem to care, or his hand cut off. But, everything he was going through, I just didn't buy it. And I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to do what Kojima did with Big Boss in Metal Gear Solid 5, where you are Big Boss and you play as him. That's why they create your face in the beginning of the game and stuff like that. You are Big Boss. And that was kind of a cop-out, I feel, or a bad thing to do for a character that had been well established. It would work for someone like Ethan, but again, we're playing Resident Evil because we like the characters. The characters are what drive us to play these games a lot of the times, because the characters have been interesting throughout the years. And a bland character like Ethan is just not fun. So I really hope that he doesn't return. Next on the leaks, it said that Resident Evil 8 was tested last year, and God, man, I hope that if it was tested and what these next leaks talk about, I really hope people were super vocal at who got to test these and realized, it's like, hey, you got to change some stuff, guys. Resident Evil 8 will not be called RE8, but it will have a clever title. So it's going to go along the lines of something like Code Veronica, most likely. Maybe Resident Evil 8 is a somewhat kind of sequel or something. I mean, we had Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, Resident Evil Code Veronica, Resident Evil 4, 5, 6, and then 7, you know how it goes. And then we had stuff like Resident Evil Revelations 1, Revelations 2. We had Outbreak File 2, Dead Aim, Survivor. We had these games that weren't numbers. So take it as a grain of salt, guys, but if it's not called Resident Evil 8, I don't really mind that much. I guess it's probably because I'm not really interested that much in Resident Evil 8. Because of what the next thing I'm going to talk about is something that really upsets me, which makes me not happy for Resident Evil 8, and that is the game will be in first person. Ladies and gentlemen, first person horror has been done to death. There is an oversaturation about it. This is something that me and the gang at the Residents of Evil have talked about for the longest time, but Resident Evil 7 did do a good job when it came to the first person horror aspect. But much like I said, and I will stand by this until the day I die, Resident Evil 7 was first person just to push VR, because VR was supposed to be the huge thing this generation, and they've done nothing with it, okay? And I don't want to hear the whole argument about it, because people have been incredibly rude to me about this. I know they've created other VR games. I've played other VR games, but there are VR games that are pretty much $30 tech demos, or ones that are just not that fun, or you might be able to play them all in VR and they're just not good. RE7 is literally the best of the best when it came to the VR system. But again, a lot of people get motion sickness. A lot of people don't like first-person view. Resident Evil should have stayed with the fixed camera angles or the over-the-shoulder view. And I think after the success of Resident Evil 2 Remake, when people were upset for a while that, classic camera angles weren't returning, but we had the over-the-shoulder view and it worked, I think that's where people were just like, oh, this game's really good. Like, the atmosphere, everything else, it accompanies it. It does a good job, and that's what this does. So, I don't know, guys. I'm just not excited for this being in VR and first-person mode and all that stuff. I think they are going to hurt themselves, especially if Ethan's in it and he has no... Like, his story's already done. That's the big thing about Ethan. His whole thing was finding his wife. There's no more reason for him to be involved in this series at all. Next up on the list, it says gameplay starts in a village leading to a castle. And this isn't bad because we're used to castles in Resident Evil. We're used to villages. It's something that worked before and people don't seem to mind to get again. I've seen a lot of, if this is true, a lot of people have been commenting on this and they do like the idea. So if that's the case, Capcom, then I guess we're all okay with that because I know I am. The environment will be rural, snowy mountain areas, possibly set in Europe. It wouldn't be the first time Resident Evil's taking place in Europe. And the snowy atmosphere is good. Look, when you really want something to be scary and spooky, a lot of people just do it at night and it's like, that's it. But snow and all these other areas really add to that feeling of aloneness. Now, the thing about snow, a lot of people love the winter because when it snows and you go outside and you listen to it, you can hear that snow falling and nothing else and the wind going through the trees. It's very relaxing. But in a horror game setting, it makes you even more nervous because it's the atmosphere. And I think that, with games like Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 7, they did very well when it came to the atmosphere of making you feel afraid. Even the old Resident Evil games, like 2 and 3, when you were out in the city streets and you heard the wind blowing and you heard the crows cawing in the distance, or you heard the zombies crying, that was some scary ass crap, ladies and gentlemen. And I think that if they keep this setting for the snow, it's going to work very well. Maybe like in certain areas where it's heavy snow, like you hear foot crunching, you can actually hear the enemies coming at you, but it's dark and you can't see from which direction. That might be cool. So again, this is one of the leaks that I hope is actually a thing. Zombies will be back, apparently. And it won't be the molded, and which is good because a lot of people didn't like the molded. I thought they were a good idea, but after you ran into them a couple times, you're just like, I can just leave the room and not really be that scared and just go back in with a better plan. The molded were not that great. A lot of people always crapped on Resident Evil Revelations Ooze characters for not being that different, but I think the Ooze characters were pretty different. I think there was maybe a variety of 4 of them or something, but it was how they looked and were designed that kept it interesting, that you didn't need a crap ton of them. The molded didn't really have that much unless you played as Chris. Then you came across, I think it was 1 or 2 new molded or something like that. Either way, it's something that they do need to fix. And by putting zombies back in the franchise, we got to see where this is going, ladies and gentlemen. Zombies are the way because people really want to see them back. And next on the list is a shadowy female enemy will follow you but will dissipate if shot. This is kind of very reminiscent of how Resident Evil 3.5 worked. And for those of you who don't know, Capcom has tried to experience with supernatural horror before. Resident Evil, 4, when it began originally, was supposed to be kind of very supernatural-like. And then even things like Onimusha and Devil May Cry was supposed to deal with demons and ghosts and all this other kind of crazy stuff. And then, of course, because of that, it didn't work. So we got games like Devil May Cry, and then we got Onimusha. So that's really cool. But overall, some people aren't happy with the whole ghost thing. And I can understand that because Resident Evil's never really been about ghosts. So that's a Silent Hill kind of thing, I guess. But if they can do it the right way, I'm open to it. But I think that they should just stick with the bioweapons in general and not some floating woman. I mean, again, if it's scary and it works, it works. Wolf-like creatures will attack the player in certain certain areas. And let me tell you guys, I've been seeing a lot of hate for this online about wolves, and some people are getting werewolves from somewhere or something like that. And I gotta tell you, folks, the werewolf idea, yeah, it's kind of weird. But I think by wolf-like creatures, they mean a biohazard wolf that's probably a werewolf or something like that, something really scary. Maybe it has 4 arms instead of 2, or it splits off and has 4 arms, something like that. But wolves aren't a thing that are new to Resident Evil. Resident Evil 4 had the wolves in the mountains that gnawed at Leon's throat, and then Revelations had Chris and Jessica fighting them. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to add the wolves because, again, look at the area that you're in. They're gonna be wolves, and you're gonna have these snowy mountain areas, and those are what populate those kind of areas during the time. So take it with a grain of salt, guys. It's probably something because if you guys know how Capcom works, for many years, it's like any other development thing too. You have an idea, you start with it, and sometimes it doesn't make it to the final draft, the final cutting room floor type deal. I mean, there's been a lot of crazy Capcom stories about development for characters and other stuff over the years from other franchises. So again, take it with a grain of salt, ladies and gentlemen. But if it is some kind of werewolf type enemy or like some kind of biohazard wolf that like, morphs and so it can stand on two legs and it has its two regular arms and then like just mutates into two more, like a Birkin kind of thing, I'd be okay with that. Again, it's the thought that they put into this, how these things go. Next on the list, the last one on this list is Chris Redfield will also be returning in some capacity. This I like. I really do like the idea that Chris Redfield could be a returning character in the franchise because he was in the last one, so it makes sense that he comes into this one as well. Unfortunately, I feel that if this is true, they are not going to add other characters from the franchise and just going to keep it him and Ethan, which I think would be a big mistake. Chris is getting up there in age. This dude is in his 40s now, all right? And being able to attack, biohazard weapons and all this kind of stuff at that age, you're not going to be able to keep up with the young guys as much, even though Chris keeps surviving every incident there is. But I think their big thing they need to do, scrap the Ethan idea, send Chris and Jill in. Jill has not been in a proper Resident Evil mainstream title pretty much since Revelations, okay? And that was 8 years ago now. The Revelations birthday was last week. Again, that's 8 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. So I feel that, keep Chris in, figure out, wrap these characters' stories up. Like, why is he, teaming up with Blue Umbrella? What's the deal? Does he really trust them, that kind of thing? Do that, folks, and you'll understand what I'm saying. Like, you'll see the whole big picture if they do it like that and have Jill be in there. I think that'd be something cool. So that's it for the Resident Evil 8 leaks. It's something that I think needed to be talked about because a lot of people seem to be confused or angry on Twitter, and hopefully, this helps you guys actually understand that. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the PAX South wrap-up. I'm going to be discussing this, I think, this weekend with my team, but at least you can hear my point of view right now. Maybe they'll help me trigger something in my mind that I may have forgotten. But guys, PAX South was amazing. The best PAX I've ever been to. It was really cool. Kind of small, I feel. Like, there really wasn't a lot to super explore. I know, PAX is getting to be very indie game-like, and I'm kind of sad Capcom wasn't there. But, because, we had Leon Kennedy himself, Nick Apostolidis, join us on our panel that we had. And, we walked around the showroom floor. He had his Resident Evil outfit. He wanted to go show the guys at Capcom and everything, and they weren't there. So it was kind of a bummer. But, yeah, it was really a cool experience because I got to go there with my team. And my team at the Residents of Evil, we've been a team for now 3 years. And it's the first time all of us met face-to-face. Yeah, we've been on, Discord and Cam and everything like that, to, talk and do interviews and everything, but this is the first time we all got together, and it was one hell of a party. We had a blast from start to finish. The whole weekend was amazing. Our panel, I could not tell you guys how incredible that panel was. Over 250 people showed up for that. I know we have 157,000 followers on YouTube, but that's all over the world, okay? And we weren't sure that a lot of people would show up for this, and people did. And to any of the fans that are listening to this, thank you guys so much for tuning in or coming into that panel. It blew our minds because we sent Bob out there to count. Bob and Corey went out there to count and came back, and me and Ali and JJ and Nick were just like, wait, that many people? Are you serious? Because this is our first panel. We'd expect that maybe at a second or third panel, but this was our first. So again, mind blown by the support by there. You guys did a phenomenal job coming out and supporting us and actually wanting us to sign your, autographs and everything. That was another big deal too for me. I was just like, man, people want my autograph? This is nuts. It was great, shaking hands with everybody, chatting with everybody. The people that I spooked in the line when I was doing Joe Pesci voices, everything like that. It was great. Because one guy, he said that I was funny, and I'm like, funny how? Funny how like a clown? I'm here to amuse you? What the fuck is so funny about me? Stuff like that. And, his girlfriend knew what I was mimicking, but he didn't. And it was great. It was a good time talking to everybody. And then I got to do something. This is kind of like a dream shoot, right? So Nick Apostolidis, who you all know is the voice of Leon and the motion capture artist, he came with us to this convention. He had his Leon cosplay with him, and we did a photo shoot at this con with my friend Suwon, who is a great cosplayer down in Texas. She has done so many Resident Evil cosplays, Devil May Cry, a lot of Capcom stuff, a lot of Final Fantasy stuff, a lot of anime stuff too. She does it all. and she's a wonderful human being. She agreed to come on and be part of the shoot, and she had a blast. We all laughed nonstop at how funny this shoot was. This was probably one of the best shoots I've ever done in my life. It's like a dream come true kind of thing, and Nick was happy the whole time. Suwon was happy. Everybody was happy that was helping out on the shoot. It was just a barrel of laughs, and the pictures that came from it are truly amazing. And that was kind of like the big highlight for me of that convention. Again, seeing my team going out for real, like, Texan food and everything, and having a real Texas barbecue at Ali's buddy's house and everything like that was just unreal. Like we just didn't expect that amazing of a time. I feel. I think a lot of us were going to be like nervous because some of these guys, it was their first time being on a panel. For some of it was their first time being at a con. Overall, the entire experience was great. We had a blast, and we want to do it again more. And I'm going to lead this into the next segue, which I talked about very early on in the podcast, is our own game. That's right. We are making a game called Vigil. And Vigil is a game that is in the style of Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. That's right. We are going old school, fixed camera angle graphics. And a lot of people are excited about this. I'm super excited for this game, guys. Like, we showed it off and people went nuts for it. We are going balls to the wall with this game. And the reason why we're making this game is because we want fans to get that old school survival horror feel that they don't get anymore. Now, Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 7 did bring horror back to the franchise completely. Revelations 1 and Revelations 2 were the right track, okay? That's what got the series back on track for it, and RE7 and RE2 Remake cemented that as it being amazing. So, our game, we just want this to be a game for the old school horror fans that were around when like the original Resident Evil came out, or Silent Hill and that kind of stuff. We really want to make this game great. We have an amazing team. We have guys like Moonglint who's developing it. We got Mono Memory who's making the actual music for the game. And the rest of us are like writing things out. We're writing a script, the story. We're figuring out, we're sketching out like ideas for it. It's a great team. We've got a lot of good people on board. It's just something that's a passion project, and we are so happy that so many other people out there are excited for this game. This is something that I truly believe that a lot of people will love, and I really hope they give it a chance because this is something that we're pouring our heart and souls into, and a lot of people are just like, oh my god, this game actually looks really good. Like, you're doing old school style Resident Evil, but the graphics are amazing. Now, honestly, if it was up to us, we would have probably done the graphics and everything like that, much like how Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 looked, but this is just mainly a game that has that old school feel, but we're very focused on the atmosphere, the music. We are really pulling it together to make this game something for the old school fans. It's one of those things that's it's by the fans, for the fans, because nobody's really doing it. Everybody's hopped up on that whole first-person view or a horror game that's kind of like in the style of like Resident Evil 2 Remake, which again, it's not bad, but I'm glad we're the only ones really making a game like this. At least as far as I know. I haven't seen anybody else pop up doing the same thing, but I'm really excited about it. I'm really happy that, people are happy about it, and at the panel, like I said, people went nuts for it, and then they asked so many questions about it, and I was just so freaking happy. I was just so freaking happy about everything. Because the fans just are the reason why we're doing this. They're making it even more fun to develop, for a lot of people are asking a lot of questions. We can't answer right now, but on the Row podcast, we probably will, on how we're going to handle the future of the game. But we think you guys are going to like what we got planned. We hope that you do. It's going to be something that everybody's going to love, I feel. So, yeah, with that being said, that's kind of the wrap up now, I guess. I guess I should tell you guys what else is going to be happening here on the channel. For the last couple of years, I didn't do really any reviews on video games, and I didn't do as many rant videos. I tried, but because of depression and how bad things in life were going with my dad's health and stuff, it just gave me no motivation to do anything. Like, I felt bad because people really love the work that I do, and it was really apparent after I stopped doing videos where people were like, hey, when are you coming back and making videos? Like, we want to know more. And I was just like, damn, like, guys really want, you guys really like this stuff. So this year, I'm trying to be a bit more flexible. I'm trying to set more solid schedules to make this happen. I want to stream on Twitch more. We're going to be streaming over at the Road Twitch as well because, we do a lot of streaming on the YouTube, but, the Twitch is, something we really want to build as well. You can follow my Twitch down below in this picture that you see here at Outer Heaven Gaming. It's right down there, twitch.tv. And yeah, if you guys really enjoy the work that I do here, please thumbs up, subscribe, comment. Let me know about like the stuff that I talk about and everything, because I like interacting with the fans. But yeah, I'm going to try to be more solid and consistent. I really want this to be something that's great for everybody. And I just want to get back to a normal life. I guess that's the big deal. I want just to have fun again. I want not to be stressed about things and just have a good time doing podcasts, doing Let's Plays and live streams with friends. That's all I want, I guess. And to continue doing the awesome work I do over at the Residents of Evil with my team that are friggin' phenomenal. Like, they're a great team. I wouldn't be here without them, honestly. So with that being said, yeah, guys, thank you for tuning in for the first ever New to Retro Review podcast. I greatly appreciate it. If you could, again, give it a thumbs up, a like, or whatever it is now, and share it and subscribe, that'd be great, because subscribing is free. And in this day and age, free is a damn good thing. As always, everybody, thank you for watching. I'm One Big Boss, and I will talk to you all next time.